Okay folks, here we are tonight with a little bit different project. This is my 2006 Duramax with the LBZ engine, and we're having starter problems again. So I'm gonna do another starter on this, go through this wheel well here. Anyway, I'll just give you a little rundown backstory on that. So I don't know if you guys have had starter problems with your Duramax trucks. I've gone through a few on this truck, and when I bought the truck, um, the mechanic that owned it before me, he told me about the starter problem, and his son bought the truck brand new, and they've had problems with the starter grinding ever since new. And from what I've done in research and from what they told me is some of these Duramaxes have this problem, some don't, and it's a casting issue. It depends on where the block was made for the motor. And so anyway, I got the truck, and he told me that it occasionally has this grinding on the starter, just doesn't engage. And so I drove it for a couple weeks, and sure enough, go to start it one time, and it ground nice and loud, and excuse me. So he told me it just happens occasionally, and that's fine. So I drove it for a while, and about a month later, it did it again, and like he said, the most common times it's going to grind is when you got a crowd of people standing around. It really embarrasses you. But anyway, the problem is it'll do that once in a while, and you just turn the key again, and it fires right up. But over time, it'll get worse and start grinding once a week maybe, and then you turn the key again. It'll grind 2 or 3 times in a row before it starts. So it got to that point, and I put a new starter in, which isn't the easiest on these trucks. You have to unclamp the exhaust and move it out of the way. But obviously this one's had it done a few times, so the exhaust comes off easy. And so I put a new starter in, and it lasted not quite a year. So same thing, it would grind every now and then. After a few months, it would grind once every month or so. And so I just let it go for a while, and then it finally started grinding a lot, and it wasn't even a year later. So I took the starter back for warranty, got another starter, and I put it in. And less than a month later, the solenoid went out on that starter, so it just clicked, wouldn't crank. So I pulled that starter out, and I talked to another mechanic friend of mine about this issue. And when you look at the ring gear, it looks fine, and even the mechanic before me said he checked the ring gear out. There's a few marks on it, but there's no teeth that are missing or gouged or anything. There's just some marks on the face. And when you look at that and you look at the starter, it looks like they're just hitting each other and they're not meshing into each other. And if you look at the starter, there's a little bit of a bevel on that gear. So other mechanic friend says, well, just take a grinder to that bevel and make it a longer taper to give it more chance of meshing in to the ring gear instead of just hitting head on with the blunt face of it. And so I didn't really want to do that on a brand new starter for just a trial run. So I actually still had the old starter that was in the truck when I bought it, just kicking around. And it was kind of weak. It cranked slow, but I thought it was worth a try. It's a pain to change, but I'm going to try it. So I ground those gears and gave it a longer bevel. And that starter's been in here for over a year now, just cranking slow. But I think it ground one time in a year, and it's almost made it through this cold winter cranking slow. I didn't think it would. Anyway, we've had a few cold days the last couple weeks, and I haven't been plugging the truck in, and it's getting pretty slow and a little bit growly, and cranking a long times because it's cranking slow. That and glow plug number 7 needs to be replaced too, so I might do that when I'm in there too. But anyway, so that seemed to work for this situation. I'm going to take a brand new starter now, and I'll show you guys the difference, and I'm going to grind it, and I'm going to put it in. And the only difference that I can think of is it's going to crank faster, and I hope that doesn't cause a problem. The slow cranking might have helped it to engage easier, but I would leave this starter in if it wasn't just cranking so slow now that it's barely starting the truck. But it's not grinding. That's not the reason I'm changing this. And this was a starter that was grinding 2, 3, 4 times in a row before it would actually engage. And I ground the gears and put it back in, and it's lasted another year. So if I grind this brand new starter, I'm going to see if it'll last longer. Fingers crossed. I got this starter on warranty for the one that the solenoid went out on, and now it's been sitting in my truck long enough that there's no warranty on it. So hopefully the solenoid doesn't go out on it. But if that holds good, I think we might have a fix, but we'll have to report back later. But if there's any of you guys out there having this problem of the starter grinding, it's maybe something to consider. I'm not saying it is guaranteed to fix every situation, but so far it seemed to work on this truck. So you follow along as I change the starter, and I'll show you the differences in the one I ground and what I do to the new one. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this fender liner back. Another neat trick for changing your fuel filter, so you don't have to always take the liner out. Put a couple cuts right there, fold it up, you can reach up and take the fuel filter off. But for this exercise, we're going to take this out. Looks like I got a couple bolts in here. Now we're ready to work, finally. Okay, so let's see if you can come in here now. So we're going to take this clamp off right there. So you can get to the starter bolt without taking this. Sorry, I shouldn't talk or I'm rattling there. There. I'm take it all the way off as well. Okay. So you take that clamp off, the down pipe there, and obviously I've had my starter off several times, so this comes off easy. My buddies, we tried to change it to get rid of the cap, and we couldn't get that pipe off. It was stuck on there, and he's never had to change the starter. So I guess that's one advantage to having problems. Anyway, so now we're going to move to the starter. It's right in there, the wiring. So you have to take that exhaust off so that you can get the starter out. You can undo the starter without taking that off, but you just can't get it out of there. Such a big starter. Now we're gonna take off this nut. This is the big battery power, and this little one down here. This is kind of wiggling, woggling. That might be why it's weak too. So those two, and then there's a bolt there. You can see it, I don't know. Right there, there's a bolt going into the block. There's one down on the bottom. So that's where we're at. Yeah. Okay, so got my metric tools here. Let's see, what do I need for that starter bolt, the power wire. That looks like it fits on there. 13 millimeter. There we go. Go underneath the wires, and you can get to that bolt, that nut. And once you get it off a little bit, it should just be finger tight. But not yet. I would say this is an old starter, but I mean, it's probably not that old because the previous owner probably replaced it. Who knows, not too long before I got the truck. I know he said he did go through a few. He didn't drive it a lot. He just pulled his little fifth wheel with it once in a while. There, I'm going to save that nut just in case. Usually the new starters come with new hardware, but just in case. And the lock washer. I got those wires off. Still in there. Okay. Now this one, yes, it's very loose. That could be why I'm having bad starter problems. And you know what? Maybe there's someone that would rebuild that, and I could save it, put it on the shelf, or maybe I could fix that connection. See if it fixes it. So that's a 15 on there. I believe this one we could just use a ratchet. So hitting you with my shoulder there. There. There we go. Get that one knocked free. I think a nice little short extension works nice with that. Oh, there goes the heater. She's up to operating temperature in here. About 10 degrees Celsius. Anyway, just grab some tools here. Alright, so if you just get a short extension on that, you can just unscrew it by hand. There we are. Top bolt. I can't remember if they're different sizes or not. Remember that just in case. Now, the bottom bolt. It's a pain to get to. I found the easiest way. Put a whole bunch of extensions together. And you go in. Maybe you go in back here. Back here, maybe. I might just try laying down here. This is the longest I've gone in between them. So maybe if I do a medium extension instead of the long one. Okay, come on. Hook up. There. Now, get the socket back on the... Oh, I did bust it loose. Alright, so a super long extension, and then a little 3-inch extension. I think just in front of the motor mount here. That's my extension. Fun part, curl underneath and try to wiggle that out. First, you gotta get it out of the motor. Okay, now twist it just right and past the exhaust. Somehow, think, oh yeah, pull the exhaust back. Move your tire out of the way a little bit. And you put your pry bar down there on that, where the torsion keys are, the cross member. There's a flange right above that. And you pry it so that the exhaust goes to the back of the truck. And we're almost out. A little more, and there we go. Okay, so that's out. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's some marks on the teeth, but if you feel them, they're not sharp. It's just a little bit of rounding off wear, but they're not missing any teeth. And I've checked every time I've taken it out, and it doesn't look terrible. Okay, now that I have this out, it's probably a good thing I'm changing it now, but it is definitely wearing down. And I think it hits pretty hard right on the front of that ring gear. But you can see, I'll find something to point with here, if you can see what I'm pointing with. So right here is my grinding marks, you can see them. So I took the bevel back further, which doesn't look like it's necessary because there's hardly any wear on that. But I also, if you look here, the bevel stops right there, mid-tooth, and I brought it back, I don't know, there's another 1/16 of an inch, and went all the way to where the taper stops there. Let's see, this one's pretty rough. It's pretty banged up. But, like I said, other than cranking slow, that one is still working just fine. So, but what I'm going to do, like I just said, is I'm going to take this bevel here, make it longer. I'm going to come back to like that chalk line right there. Can't really see it, but I'll maybe cut one, and then you can compare. Yeah, you get a nice little grinding wheel. And I like the battery powered. It's not even a fuel grinder, so it's not real fast. So you have a little more control over it. Yeah, I'm just gonna. So you get the idea a little bit. That one there has a lot less on the back side showing, but more taper. So technically, I guess it could make that tooth a little bit weaker right there, but it gives more time, more taper for it to mesh into the ring gear. So I'm just going to put this in the vise and do the rest of them. I didn't really change the engagement area. I didn't go any deeper here, just more onto that. And you can see in this, you can see the engagement. It's only about a 1/4 inch right there, as far as it engages. So you don't want to go too deep. As it comes out, it turns to engage and slip in. So, I think we'll just try that. I don't think I want to go any more than that. Let's just put her back in. So that's just my little bit of advice that might help somebody. I don't know if it will. We're going to find out with this one. If it lasts like that other old one, if it does, might be onto something. If not, I guess I go back to the drawing book, go back to changing starters again. But I don't think I'm going to record putting it back in. You probably can't see a whole lot. It's just a bunch of struggling and fighting and weaseling things in and out. Just do it the reverse order. And yeah, just my little tips and tricks. If they help you, good. If not, well, I tried. Anyway, thanks for watching. And I think I might also try to see if I can get this glow plug out while I'm here. Hopefully I don't break it, but you know what they say, every 20-minute job is one broken bolt or glow plug away from a 3-day ordeal, and I'll be driving the rat rod to work tomorrow instead of this, if that's the case.